Welcome to the Coaching Index podcast. Honest conversations between coaches, practical insights, knowledge, ideas, impact.
So I'm really interested, honestly, in your coaching journey and where you've gone. So obviously, when we met in the B license, what's your coaching journey like leading up to that, and then kind of going past that and what you're doing now?
I did my first license was the FA level 1. I did that when I was 20 years old. So that's 18 years ago this August. And then I was working at multiple like local grassroots clubs. So like Epsom and Ewell, where I'm from in England, and that was with a guy called Gary Howlett, good guy, and we just got along, and we were just coaching the kids. And then I was helping out. I can't remember his name, but he ended up working at Fulham. I'd have to look him up. He was a good guy as well. He ended up being a scout for Fulham. And then he was coaching his team before he left to do the Fulham gig, and I was jumping in with him. And then there was a guy called Humphrey Govia. It's a hard name to pronounce, but he ended up creating his own little company. But I was working with him as well, with one of the teams in Leatherhead, which is near where we are, and basically that was kind of who I worked with and who I was involved with. And then I did my level 2. Funnily enough, actually, all the name drops right now, but Josh Gallagher, who is the brother of Conor Gallagher that plays for Tottenham, I did my level 2 with him. He was a good guy. We got along really well. And level 2 was a lot better than the level 1. I'm not sure. Did you do level 1 or level 2 in England?
Yeah, I did them when I was 17. I was playing at Maidstone Academy, but one of those little youth academies that started to go up. They all wanted to be like the pro systems. So I did them there through our instructor there, who was also an FA1. So I did level 1, level 2, but I don't know how authentic it felt because it was just with a bunch of other students. So
yeah, that was part of the club, right?
Yeah.
And then so I did my level 1, level 2. Level 2 was a lot better. Then I did my FA youth modules with an instructor. I can't remember his last name, but his first name was Joseph. He was a short little black guy, really, really good instructor. And he actually gave me one bit of advice that I've never forgotten about. And I could argue it's the best advice I've ever gotten as a coach, is coach away from the ball. So prior to doing the FA youth modules 1, 2, and 3, it was always like, okay, there's the ball. Okay, what can I fix here? And just leave the rest of the picture alone. And he was just like, you need to coach away from the ball. Like anything that you say there is not going to have any impact because the picture will change. And that has never left me. And even at my club, I tell all my coaches, coach away from the ball. So yeah, really, really good instructor. It's a shame I can't remember his last name. But then, so that was that. Then I moved into Brentford's academy, kind of randomly, actually. I worked at real estate, as we would say here in America, but I worked at an estate agency in England. And one of my friends was actually coached by Miguel Rios, who was the head scout at Brentford. And I got connected with him. And then on one of my youth modules, there was Alan Steele, who is without a shadow of a doubt like my mentor. I always refer back to him whenever I have something that I want to talk, about. And he was doing the youth module with me, and we just chatted up a storm. And then I was just like, "Oh, I know Miguel. I've been helping in the scouting department." And he's like, "Oh, I work at the welfare side of the club, and up in Uxbridge they had their like academy dome, and it was the kids that went to school there. Then they would train at like lunchtime and all that stuff." So yeah, I owe pretty much everything to Miguel and Alan, because Alan got me involved in the academy more so. So Miguel helped me with the scouting, Alan helped me with the coaching, and that's where I met all the big dogs, right? Stuart English, who now I think is the head of Sunderland's academy. Ozzy, who was the academy manager. I think he spent some time as well, maybe at at Tottenham, and there was loads of coaches. I mean, I could name drop so many who have all gone on to do really, really good things. But the main person that helped me the most was Alan. So yeah, credit to Alan. He ended up being the Forest Green Rovers. I think he was there like a sports director or something. So like he hired Troy Deeney and stuff. So Alan's still in the game. He's still doing all that stuff. But yeah, quality guy. And then I got my UEFA B, and then moved over to America. And then I did all my licenses in America. The F license, which just doesn't exist anymore. The D, the E, the D, the C, and then I met you on the B license. So I don't want to talk about too much for too long, but that is it in a somewhat small nutshell.
Where are you? So what are you doing exactly now? So you said you're the technical director, right? So what's your role? What's the club look like for you guys in your area?
When I met you guys on the B, we had just moved. Me and the wife had moved from Michigan to Colorado, and I was the director of coaching at United in Loveland. And then this past season, or the one that's concluded, because we've got tryouts right now, I'm now the technical director. So as of June 1st, I'm going to be the technical director. And then we had about 300 kids at the club when I first joined. We didn't have like a pathway. It was just kind of grassroots, U9 to U19, kind of the standard players and teams and stuff. But then we got the City Soccer Club partnership, which then gave us the elite platform for girls DPL, and that's now changed to Girls Aspire, and we have the Boys Elite Academy. So yeah, the club went from 310 kids to roughly 600. And we're still dissecting tryouts now, so that could be closer to like maybe 650. So we've grown a lot, but yeah, overall just went from a kind of regular grassroots club to now we have a complete pathway, and we can offer kids from U13 to U19 an elite platform. And then we've got the U11s and 12s for boys and girls that have the pre-elite program. So yeah, lots has changed in 4 years.
So this has been a real big conversation, kind of like, especially with everyone I've talked to about, and with parents, because we're going through the tryout process too. I'm not totally sure what that looks like in many other states, but the process is really stressful for parents, players, we all know that, and coaches as well. Do you educate like the coaches on like how to handle the tryout process with players and parents? And because I've talked to some parents that have been, especially today, even on the phone while you called me, I was talking to them. But some parents, they call and they're like, well, the coach cut me, I cut my kid, we've got nowhere to go, we weren't sure on what to do. And I feel like the education for coaches is gone a little bit. It's kind of that, just take the best players and don't talk to the ones that you don't want. Is there anything as a technical director you do specifically, or you've been told, or got any mentorship from anyone to be like, hey, this is how you approach tryouts?
Yeah, good question, because I look at it as there's got to be more of a personal touch. So, for example, my club last year, we had 533 kids that were registered for tryouts. As of today, it's 890. So the growth has been just crazy. And you can very quickly lose a personal touch and that personal kind of relationship with people, because you're just kind of drowning in numbers. So what I tell my coaches is that you should really try and look at everyone in the best way possible, meaning that even if you had a kid for 2 years on your team and then they don't make it on your new team, it's not like, oh, you're not very good anymore, you're cut, whatever. It's more of, you're not at the level that you need to be right now with the new influx of players that we have. You should maybe go on the second team and dominate, get more confidence, play every minute that you can, and then we'll hopefully see you, on the top team again in a year's time. So there's a lot of short-term kind of answers and I guess, ideas for families. Like you mentioned about the kid getting, cut. What do we do now? At my club, we try not to cut anyone. I mean, it's not always feasible just because of, if there's 5 kids for a 9v9 team and then we don't have a coach and we don't have another 4 or 5 players to make the team, there's not an awful lot we can do about that. But we will try and help find a place and a new home for those kids whilst keeping in touch, by the way. Like, that's critical. So what I tell my coaches is don't treat everyone like a number. Some do, some don't. But I think experience typically leads to kind of doing the right thing and the integrity. Do the right thing while no one's watching. That for me is the integrity. And what we have with our coaches is that we give them a phone call. So it's not just either you didn't make the team or you're cut or you're this or you're that. It's, hey, little Johnny, did great, offering him a spot on the team. Little Susie didn't do so great this time around. We'd like to put her on the second team, but we're going to keep her on our radar. We're going to keep in touch. We're going to, kind of follow her progress, etc. So I think there's a lot to be said about the personal touch. And yeah, there's more that you need to do because you need to make those phone calls and you need to put in extra effort. But at the end of the day, I feel like to do this job correctly, or either being in leadership or being a coach, make those phone calls, have those tough conversations, because no one likes to tell, a family member, hey, you're on your daughter or son are now on the second team after being on the first team for 2 years. But once you explain to them and you're honest, I think one big thing is you shouldn't lie to people, and you shouldn't lie to parents, and you shouldn't kind of distort the truth or kind of make the situation out in a way where you're like, oh, I can come out on top on this. I think people, as much as they don't like hearing the truth, will at least respect the truth. And that's something that I think you'll know this, being from England. We're pretty blunt. We're pretty direct, not in a mean way, not in a kind of combative, argumentative way, but people just want to know where they stand. And if you tell a kid, hey, you didn't make the top team, you made the second team, and then they go try out somewhere else and they make the first team at a different club, fair enough, good for you. Like, we're happy for the kid, right? There's no grudge, there's no issue. The door is always open. You're always welcome back. But I think if you don't have those truthful conversations, I think it will come back and bite you in the backside later down the line. So I've had a kid before that I've cut is not the right word, moved them to the second team after 2 years of being with me. And I think the continual conversations that you have along the way help, so that when you get to the final tryout and they didn't make the team, it's like, we've been talking about this for a year. I think this is best for her development. She'll go on the second team. She'll get more minutes. She'll be a starter. She'll play at a level where she can actually grow. Because I think what the issue is, in my opinion, out here is some people don't care what minutes they get. They only care about what team they end up being on. And for us as true soccer people, there's no point being on the top team and getting 10 minutes. You might as well be on the second team and get 30 minutes. Like, that's just pretty simple. So we do educate the coaches on how to have those conversations with parents, but you know what it's like. You can be on a phone call with a parent and you're being very professional, you're being very polite, and then the parent doesn't like what you say, and it can turn into a kind of volatile situation. So it's a shame. It's a shame if you go in with tension, but delivering that information and comments can be really upsetting for families, which we understand, but you just have to remain professional and just be honest with people.
No, I love that. I said this yesterday that kids nowadays really appreciate honesty. I know parents do, but like, I think kids are coming to terms with like, honesty is the best policy. Like, they always want to know how their friends feel about them, how peers feel about them. They really want to do that. So the fact that you talked about, like, we can't lie and distort the truth for them and pick the players and put them in the right environment is crucial, because environment is something that is a big topic of ours. Like, what we're talking about in the coaching index stuff is like trying to create the best environment and talking about what that looks like for specific people. Because, going into tryouts, I've spoken to some people this week. You've probably done the same thing, where it's like, hey, I'm going to go join this team because they play in this platform or they do this. They have no idea about the coach. They have no idea about the people on the team. They haven't even spoke to them other than being at a 2-hour tryout. And my conversation is always, is that the best environment for your kid to be in? Like, but it could be, and maybe you take that leap and it's like, yeah, great, like it worked out. But a lot of times, like one of my teams this year, I took over a U15 girls team, and we have 5 people from outside the club that played in a platform at somewhere else that either got 1, burnt out, 2, the coach didn't really believe in them, and the environment and culture was toxic. And I'm like, hey, let's come here and we'll build something and we'll work around something that we'll get them loving the game again. So what's your ideal environment for a player? So like your teams you coach, like what kind of environment do you try to create for your teams to make sure that they get like the best out of it?
Man, I could talk about that for a long time. It depends. And the reason why it depends is because what level of player do you have? Like who's in front of you? What's the team dynamic as a whole? What level are they playing at? So I guess the way how I can answer that is to give you an example of, I took a U10 girls team at the bronze level, so the absolute lowest level possible. A lot of those kids came from rec. A lot of those kids hadn't played soccer before. And with my background, right, coaching at Brentford and, having my UEFA B, having my USB, I could just be an absolute taskmaster and just be like, this is how this is and da-da-da-da-da. But what I did is I just got down to the level of the kids. Some of them couldn't kick a ball properly, still toe kicking it, all that jazz. And you know what it's like. You're like, wow, this is tough. This is going to be hard. But meeting the kids where they're at will, one, take away your kind of stress and frustration as a coach. But also, when you meet a kid at their own level at 8, 9 years old, they immediately buy into you. They immediately trust you. So I think creating an environment, again, it's U10 girls. Loads of them have come from rec. It's kind of their first go at this. You want to have fun. You want to keep them engaged. You want them to be on the ball a lot. You want to play games, right? Like you want to work on their dribbling. So you're going to play Hungry Hippos, have the balls in one spot, have 4 different corners that they can come in, get the ball, dribble back, and, kind of just, again, meet them at their level, relate it to something that they understand. Like I've seen coaches coach U11 and U10 and U9, and they're doing low block and mid block and high press. And I'm just like, this is a waste of everyone's time. Like, what are you doing? So I think the environment that you create with the younger ones is it's got to be fun, and they've got to have a lot of touches. They've got to have hundreds and hundreds of touches of the ball. And I also think that, like, I'm taking a U11 boys team, and it's going to be a pre-elite team this season. How I'm going to be with them the first year compared to how I was with the U10 girls is going to be very, very different. But those U10 girls, after 3 years, I took them to an elite level, and they're going to petition to play at a P3 level. So just so everyone knows, in Colorado it goes bronze, silver, gold, platinum, elite, P3, P2, P1. So in 3 years, I would have taken them from bronze to basically P3. If I was their coach again this year, we would apply for that league status, which they should get. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But the point being is, as time went by, I coached them differently. I met them at different places that they needed. But with my boys, we're going to start a much higher level. And the environment that I'm going to create with them is, you've got competition amongst yourselves and also the opposition that you're playing with. So you're constantly competing with your teammate and with the opposition. When you coach U10 girls, you don't want to create the competition amongst them. You want to create the competition as a whole, right? Because you don't want to pit 9-year-old girls against each other, because they're still learning the game. They're still trying to see if they even like the game and if they're having fun. But when it comes to U11 boys that are at a higher level, they want to go further. So then you can kind of, again, meet them where they're at. They want to be better players. They want to still enjoy the game, but they want to learn. They want to emulate their, idols and stuff, Messi, Ronaldo, all those top level players. And it's far more demanding. So I'm going to be a lot more demanding. I'm going to be a lot more like, this is how you do things. This is how you get to this level. Here's how you do it. For those that don't do it, you're going to not progress as quickly as the others. Those that do, those that listen, those that are coachable, you're going to start seeing the benefits very quickly, and your level is going to rise very quickly. So I think coaching boys and girls is always different. If anyone tells me that it's the same, they don't know what they're doing. I don't care who you are. I'll die on that sword. I'll die on that hill. If you think boys and girls are the exact same, you haven't coached enough. Age groups also matter, but I think that the environment that you create for any team, you have to have buy-in from the parents. You've got to set the standard with the parents. And here's one good thing. And I appreciate what you said earlier on, Mitchell, about like why you're doing this and who you're doing this for. For any young coaches out there, for anyone that's kind of getting to grips with things, here's one thing that will help you if you've got parent issues is you can tell parents politely and professionally, I don't come to your workplace and tell you how to do your job. So you don't come to my workplace and tell me how to do my job. That will set coaches up for success, because the moment a parent goes, you know what, yeah, you don't come into my office and tell me what to do. Why would I come into your office and tell you what to do? And I think that resonates with a lot of parents. Not everyone, don't get me wrong, you won't win over everyone, but it's kind of a rule of thumb. If you set the standard of like, I'm the coach, you've already trusted me with your kids' development, let me do my thing. And if you're on board and you buy in, then your child is going to have more success. So I think once you set the kind of standard and you set the expectations of this is how we're going to be successful, you can either buy in or not. If you're one kid and you're one family, you don't buy in, but the other 12 or 13 do, that's on you. So that served me well for a long, long time in this industry.
Yeah. So parents, I feel so. I went through the coach educator pathway. Me and Ryan Rogak, we did the grassroots, and like you said, you went through that and kind of saw some of that. Yeah. So every time I teach a grassroots course here in Utah, I'm always asked with like, I'll find articles and different things talking about sideline behavior and talking about parent expectations, and everyone always asks like, where do you find those? Like, I don't know where to find these resources. So this is something that we've been looking at, is like we're making a parent corner to give just free information for these parents that they can understand a little bit more. Because I think it's truly out of education, and it's truly out of them not understanding and parents not understanding what the expectations are sometimes, because there's a lot of things getting thrown around. So on that note, and you talked about player development, which was amazing. How much does a parent have like influence on a player's long-term development? So like you said, you're doing all these things in your environment with your team to moving forward. You've moved them up divisions, their intensity levels got better, but like, what does a parent involvement look like maybe at home, or what's an expectation for you that the parent can help you with the kids' long-term development? Because they can help it, or they can hurt it.
Yeah. I think inadvertently they hurt it more than they either know or want to. The critical thing is this is a lot of this is just based on experience, Mitchell, and I know you know this because you've been in the game for a long time as well. Nothing can beat experience. Nothing can beat it. It's just when it comes to parents, and like I've had parents want to fight me in the parking lot because their daughter got 2 minutes less than another kid. And I'm like, are you serious right now? Your daughter's right here. She's right in front of us, and you're wanting to fight me because she got 2 minutes less than someone else. Like, are you serious right now? There's so many different experiences that you can have that can lend into helping everything. And what I would say for kind of experienced coaches, younger coaches, middle of the road, wherever you're at in your coaching journey, when you have a parent, you can just sniff them out immediately. Like, again, is that experience? Maybe, but like you can just tell, and you can have a vibe, and you can kind of just suss someone out quite quickly. If kids on the field do something wrong and they immediately look to the parent, you know that you have an issue, right? Not you personally as the coach, but you know that this kid is completely glued to their parents' perspective and opinion, that is a big problem. Because it doesn't matter what you do as the coach, it doesn't matter how you connect with the kid, and not like it doesn't matter connecting with the kid, it 100% matters connecting with the kid. But what I mean in terms of that connection is, it doesn't matter if you are doing everything possible, the parent will always be kind of the number one for the kid, which is just normal human biology. It's only when they get older that they start to kind of go, no, the coach knows more than my parent, right? That's kind of when we start becoming like free thinkers and have autonomous thinking at like, 11, 12 years old. So for me, when you look at a parent and you look at a kid and you go, okay, this is my issue. What are they going to say on the car ride, the car journey? Is it going to be negative? Is it going to be this? Is it going to be that? There's not an awful lot you can do about that. There really isn't. But what you can try and do is educate the parent of, I know when Johnny misses a PK, he looks straight over to you, and then you're there with like your arms up in the air or like a big sigh or whatever. Like your body language and your demeanor is ruining your kid's confidence, right? And I give an example of when Johnny missed a PK or Susie missed a PK. Did I yell at them? Did I say this? Did I say that? They already know they missed a PK. They don't need to hear anything. They don't need to see anything negative in terms of body language from anyone. But I think once you've got your player on side, and the kid starts looking at you first rather than the parent, I think that's when you've turned things in a positive way. But then you also need to be cognizant as the coach that if you do win that battle and you get the kid on your side and they're looking for assurance or reassurance from you first rather than the parent, you're on the right track. But then you also need to be careful about then how you deliver information and how you become kind of their confidant. Because if Johnny misses a PK and then you're the one that's just like, oh my gosh, and this and that, and then that's the problem. So I think from a parent perspective and trying to help coaches with that, experience will never be beaten. But I think having buy-in from a parent of like, this is what I think Johnny can do or can't do. And if the parent's like, you don't know what you're doing, blah, 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 negative comment, this, that, the other, then it's very simply a case of, well, you trusted me and you signed up to be on this team. So if you're not buying in and you don't believe that I'm the right person for it, this is going to be a terrible year for your kid because you're already being negative in the background. You're already saying negative things about the coaches. This is just not going to be a good fit. And I think the quicker coaches can sniff that out and deal with it head on, again, not being combative, not being argumentative or confrontational, but very simply put, you want me to be the best cheerleader and motivator and coach for your kid, you have to give me the reins fully. If we're divided, it's not going to work. So getting buy-in from parents is crucial.
Yeah. Big buzzword, right? Is culture, especially in your team. And everything you said was amazing. Like we've been really examining kind of the parent, not relationship, but the parent involvement of like how they can help their kid, right? Because sometimes they don't realize they're doing these things, right? Sometimes they do realize, and it's frustrating, but sometimes they don't realize that their influence is directly involved in and hurting their kid. Have you had any parents on your team or have seen like a good model of a parent and how they can support? So like maybe with the long-term development being like helping them with extra touches or being there. What have you had that where you've seen a parent that's on a good side have been a good model of that and what that looks like?
Yeah, there's been a lot, and that's a good question. There's been a lot of good parents and there's been a lot of good people in general. So culture is huge at my club in terms of like leadership and coaches in general. Culture is like our number one thing. In terms of like the parents and their culture and how they can help, if they are open and they come to me and say, Susie's doing great with this, but she's doing bad with that. What can I do to help her? Hey, here's a couple of exercises or, drills as they're called out here, but here's a couple of things that she can do. If she does this 10 minutes a day, it's going to improve everything. And you'll see as time goes by. Tell parents, don't expect things to be fixed overnight. I mean, you look at how we grew up in England and talking about culture, like that's in our blood. That like this sport is life, right? And you even have it in Ted Lasso where that I can't remember, is it Danny something or whatever, and he says football is life, right? But that is for us. And out here, I think when you have a family member or a parent that is bought into everything and they're like, hey, I want to do the private lessons, and we watch soccer at home and we do this and we do that, that's great, like, but then you have to be careful that they don't do too much. Johnny's playing 7 days a week. He doesn't need to play 7 days a week. Like he also needs a break. He needs to reset and refresh his mind and his body, especially depending on what age they are. But what looks like, in my opinion, a good kind of parent or a good caring kind of positive influence and trying to help, put everything together for the kid, I think it's just being engaged in a positive way, on the sidelines, they cheer, they kind of motivate, they do good things, right? A goalie concedes a goal, and it's just like, okay, like, you'll get the next one and don't worry about it, and just keep them positive, right? But the parents that I think, the ones that you want to kind of hold on to, or you want to create more of a relationship with, I wouldn't personally do private training now with players that I coach, because then it can kind of blur the lines, but I recommend other people doing it. But just that general engagement and involvement of how they ask, how can I help my kid? What is your opinion? You offer your opinion and then they action it. I think those are the parents that you want, and those are the ones that are creating engagement and positivity on the back end. Because we only get them, like my club, we train them for three days a week for an hour and a half, right? So I'm only getting them for 4.5 hours for the week, and then obviously games. The parents are with them a lot more, so there's a lot more that can actually be done from a parent perspective. So yeah, if they're engaged and positive and they want to help and they're asking for feedback, I think that's a good start.
Yeah, I'm just gonna divert a little bit because you mentioned it, and we have an article we talked about private soccer trainers. I think that's crucial. I think finding the right trainer is crucial. What bugs me is when you have, let's say, a centre back that will go to a private trainer, say, hey, I really want to work on these things, but then the activities or drills that are designed are all about shooting and things.
I knew you were going to say shoot. I knew that was going to come. Yeah.
They'll look good. No, you're good. They'll look good on like an Instagram video and stuff. So we talked about kind of like, we've had conversations about what does that look like for your kid? What should the environment look like? Like you said, you don't do the private training stuff purely out of just their kids in your club and the bias that could happen. What do you think is an ideal environment for a kid if they're looking for a private trainer? Because they're everywhere now, right? I think they're a huge part. It's kind of like ChatGPT of education. Like everyone's like, we need to get rid of AI. It's like it's not going away. How can we use it to help benefit? And so, like with private trainers, I think it's the same thing. Like, how can we use them to benefit with us? Is there any good tips or any things that you've seen with trainers and your experience that have helped your players, and maybe would help people listening to be like, okay, that might be a really good tip of if I'm looking for a private trainer for my kid, or even if I'm doing something for my kid, what can I do to kind of help them?
Yeah, so I used to do private training in San Diego every Friday for like years, and I would chalk up like 5, 6, 7, 8 hours straight, right, in like 90-degree weather. That's because I just freaking loved it. I love coaching. That's my passion. I love improving players and all that good stuff, right? So I think it depends how you look at it, because when I used to do it, I was always engaged. I was on my feet. I was always just involved and just, the details and stuff. I think you can tell a bad personal trainer or 1v1 coach, they're sitting down, they're on their phone, they're not engaged. The kid's doing, 1,000 reps of the same stuff. And there's no real engagement. They're kind of just there picking up a check and picking up their money, which that's if that's what people need to do, they need to do. I understand that. But if you're there and you have, an hour or 45 minutes, and that's actually one thing that I used to do. I used to do 45 minutes, and parents would be like, oh, but we need an hour. I'm like, but do you though? Like, your kid is working 45 minutes, like full tilt in 90-degree weather. Do they really need the extra 15 minutes? Like, the extra 15 minutes is just going to be me having them, have breaks. So it's a little bit more intense. So I think when it comes to the private training, what to look for, or a 1v1 trainer, like you made the comment, and I knew you were going to say shooting, because that to me is a lazy one-on-one coach. That's just like, now if you're a striker, okay, or if you're a 10 or an attacking mid or a winger, okay, I get it. But like if you're a winger, for example, and I've seen private training where everything is done within the width of the goalpost. It's just like, one, their starting position isn't there. Two, their end position isn't there, right? You've got to start coming in from the wings in the corner of the box. So you can tell quickly who knows their stuff and who doesn't with certain situations like that. Defenders, like a defender and private training, that type of stuff should be like aerial balls, because that happens all the time. So work on their heading, working on not letting the ball bounce. So having a smart coach and someone that knows what they're doing, you can tell, position specific, like you alluded to. So if you're a midfielder, you want to work on scanning and kind of like your turns and just 1 and 2 touch passing. If you're a winger, you want to work on your dribbling and your shooting from angles. If you're a striker, just many different deliveries in the box. So I think very quickly you can ascertain who knows what they're doing and who doesn't know what they're doing. But yeah, it's sometimes not always easy to see, but after a couple sessions, like you say, if you're a defender and they're working those 3 sessions for half the time on shooting, then you've got an absolute clown of a coach and you need to change it.
Yeah. No, I think for parents, like we said, asking those questions to those trainers and being like, what does this look like? I love that you said the 45 minutes. Like, because we learned, right, in our course when we met, with the huge thing about periodization and talking about what that looks like. So like you said, with that extra 15 minutes, you're just taking breaks for longer. So you're still getting the same work that you're doing in 45 minutes. You just got the hour that, I guess, quote unquote, you paid for. So I love that you said that. But I think parents don't ask the questions enough to a trainer. They see a trainer who is, they've got this D1 athlete, this professional soccer player that's putting videos up, and then all of a sudden they're like, I want my kid to do that, when it doesn't necessarily fit their skill set and their environment. So like you said, you've got to make it game like. I love that you said about they usually go in the width of the goal. They don't go outside of that, like working on aerial stuff, aerial balls, and things like that makes it more game like, and things that they're gonna see in their own environment, which I think is huge. So I think this conversation has been really, really, really good and beneficial. I've always ended it with a question, because like I said, reaching out to you guys and having you guys jump on here and talk as an experienced coach, as a leader. And I know you kind of answered this a little bit earlier, but what is one tip? Maybe it's for a coach that has come into your club, a brand new coach has no soccer experience ever. They've never played. They've just watched they've watched their kid play or anything like that. What's one bit of advice that you would give to some just entry level coach? What should they do?
Leave your ego at the door forever. Put that ego, just freaking put that ego in the trash, in the closet. Just freaking leave your ego at the door, because one, no one cares, right? And not like no one cares that they don't care about you as a person, but once you start kind of doing everything based on ego, that's it. That's the end of you as a coach. You don't want to grow. You don't want to listen to other people's opinions. You don't want to be challenged. You think that you know everything. Leave your ego at the door. I've done this 18 years. And I think we were, even when we were on the B license, like we were all talking about each other's experiences and this, that, and the other. I don't feel like anyone was just like, I know everything. Like, you guys are all stupid. You guys are all dumb. There was a general collective of like, oh, I like that. Oh yeah, you that's a good little comment that you've made. Like, have a growth mindset. Don't just, like, I think ego stunts that. and sometimes doesn't even allow you to grow any little bit. It's one of the reasons why I took the F license, the E license, the D license, the C license, and the B license here in America, was I got to see different coaches, different instructors, how things were done. Because I didn't just go, wow, the UEFA B is, better than all of this. I'm just going to jump straight onto my USB. I was like, no, let me figure out what's going on over here in this country. But I know a lot of people that are like, I don't need to do the D license. I don't need to do this. I don't need to do that. That's fine. But if you're new to this, or even if you're old, like you're can't teach an old dog new tricks is what they say. I don't believe that. I've done this 18 years and I'm still learning. I still steal things from coaches. By the way, coaches are the best thieves. I know you agree with that as well, Mitchell. Like, just keep on stealing, and it's because at the end of the day, it's going to make the kids better, right? And I don't remember where I stole stuff from, and I have coaches that steal it from me. They're like, where did you get that from? I'm like, I don't know. They're like, did you make it up? I'm like, probably not. No, very rare do you come up with your own thing. But yeah, leave your ego at the door, because it's not going to serve you well in this industry.
Yeah, I love that. I always talk in our courses. The last part of the course is talking about the license pathway. I love that you said that you went in at the beginning. I did the same thing. As soon as I came over, I did in the grassroots, and I was that coach. To be vulnerable, I was that coach that sat there. I played in college. Like, I've watched the game for 20 years. Like, I know what I'm doing. And then you sit down, you're like, wow, didn't know that. Well, I didn't know that this was a part of it also. And you're like, wow, this, there's a lot to learn. And I always put it this way. I always put a license is like a driving license. The soccer license, like, it's like, I have one. Max Verstappen has a driver's license in the Formula One. Right. Doesn't mean we're on the same level. And so that's why I think it's huge that, when people ask about the courses as well, like, what's the thing you get off them? I think you get relationships, you get added knowledge, and love what you said. Leave your ego at the door and just go in there and take what you need and what can help you. So I think this has been amazing. Thanks for meeting with me. I know obviously we had some internet issues, but I really appreciate you doing this, Justin. You've been awesome.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Coaches Conversations, presented by the Coaching Index. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and share it with a coach, parent, or player who may benefit from it. For more coaching insights, resources, articles, and future conversations, follow us on Instagram at the Coaching Index. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep making an impact.